So in this video today, I'm going to show you a method I used to strip the deck of paint and stain on our back deck. I use this Jomax cleaner and this attachment that goes on the end of a pressure washer wand. Usually it's used for a driveway, and the way this thing works is here's the attachment. Actually, it's got a little spinning wheel inside here that out of these red nozzles, the pressure washer stream comes out of there, and it spins around and greatly reduces the amount of effort you have to make. Rather than using a regular pressure wand and moving it back and forth, this thing covers a 12-inch circle area. Here's our deck. This is what I've done. I've done all this over here previously, and I'm down to just a small area left to do. You can see how much stain and paint is wanting to peel up. You can see the difference in the areas that have been done, and probably most dramatically where you can see it on the seating along the side. Here's what I did just the other day. It's pretty clean, and then you see here's what it looks like originally. So anyway, I'm going to show this video. I'm going to show how to do this, and I'll publish it up on YouTube. And first thing, shake this up really well. Put this out in the bottle, and then I just use a garden sprayer. Definitely wear protective gear too. This is pretty caustic stuff. If you get on your skin and stuff, you definitely don't want to wash it. That's why I wear gloves, particularly boots, because you get a lot of overspray on your feet. And this stuff's kind of nice too because it's kind of gelatinous, so it sticks on vertical surfaces, like the walls and stuff. You spray it in a nice, get a good coverage, and back and forth. Definitely cover plants because I've killed a couple already because I didn't. And you can do the vertical surfaces too. Just let it sit on there. You don't want to let this stuff get dry. What I do is just gently shower it, just so it doesn't dry out. If it dries out, it kind of loses effectiveness, I think. I pump up the sprayer pretty good. That way you get a little bit better coverage. Dispersing for a better pattern. If you have it too low, then it just kind of dribbles out. So you just go, board by board. It's pretty easy. You can see what I do. I just pull this along about 2 boards at a time. This foams it up pretty good, and the attachment actually contains it, so it doesn't really splash out, and leaves it deposited on the wood, so that it'll continue to work on it. And I just go on this 2 boards at a time, and I'll go over it like 3 or 4 times. I'll do one pass, get it all foamed up, and then I'll come back again and like a couple more times, and it lets the cleaner do a lot more work for you, and so it's fairly easy when you're doing it this way. can get into a lot of the... And if you see stuff getting dry, you just kind of lift this up and it'll shoot water out, you know, so you keep stuff misted up or damp so it doesn't dry out. So you can see after I've gone over it, it still leaves a foamy residue, which continues to act on it, and until you actually use a pressure washer to rinse everything off and get it off the deck. That's why I kind of like this method. It does the cleaning for you, but it leaves residue while you're working it, continues to try and take up more stain. So after I used the spinning brush attachment, I did use the power, I did go along behind it with the actual power washer at about a 45-degree angle to get all the stain and paint up. So you still have to do that step. I just didn't record that because I was having some camera problems. But this is after I've used the spinning power washer attachment and the regular power washer attachment on the wood. On the benches, I've gone behind that and actually done some sanding, hand sanding. And then on this main deck, we're going to use this machine, which is a deck sander. So I'm using this deck sander. They charge $40 for 4 hours, and $60 for day. You put this pad on there. The sandpaper pad is attached to a foam pad, a cushion pad, and then that just gets put up here, and there's little spiky things that hold it in place. So anyway, I've used it on this deck, and you can see the pretty dramatic difference of, you know, on the left hand side where it hasn't been done and the right hand side where it has been done. It's super easy. I'll videotape a little bit, but you just kind of guide it around. You don't push it or pull it, just kind of, you know, move in the direction you want. And I'm using 60 grit paper right now. I think you can go down to 35 or so, but since I'm not bringing up any stain or paint, I'm just refinishing the wood. I'm starting at 60, it'll get all the stuff off, and then I'll go back over it with an 80 grit, just a little bit smoother. So I don't know, I have about half of my deck I have done with both 60 and 80 grit sandpaper, and it's really smooth. I was even able to put it up on these seats, the benches that are around the side of the deck, and did those. I was a little leery of doing that, but man, it worked great. And so now for about 2 hours I'm just going to start working on the other half of the deck. I think when I measured it out, it was about between 700 and 800 square feet total, so it's going to take me about 4 hours, I guess. So we found a little bit of rot in here, and I pulled up some of these boards. These ones, however, you can see these stick over. A lot of these other ones, you know, went to the joist. That's where they were nailed down, so I just pull those up. These ones stick over, so I need to cut them on a line right on top of the joist. So what I did was I set the depth on the Skilsaw to just a little over 1.5 inches, which means it will reach down just through the boards, but it won't hit the joist. And then I took a straight edge and I screwed it into I just used small screws to hold it in place, so I can just run the Skilsaw against that, and it's going to give me a super straight cut right across the top of the joist. And the base of this is 4.5 inches in, so I just made sure, you know, there's a screw right there, and then I made sure I had drawn lines across the top of the joist, and I made sure that the edge is 4.5 inches from here to here. So I know this cut is going to be super straight right across the top of the joist, and the depth is going to be just above it. I'll probably have to go over with a hand saw just to cut the last little bit out. So I had some rot. I'm using Bondo wood filler, and just kind of building it up, and then we'll stain it. Hopefully it'll look okay. I've got the boards in over there. Just had to do some deck repairs. I haven't nailed them down yet, but it's getting there. Got one more board I got to pull out too. So I have to cut out a piece of wood here and splice it in. So I'll show how I do that. I'm going to make a cut right where that T is. That's where the joist is right there. So I'll cut a piece out with a jigsaw right here. So I took a jigsaw and cut a little hole through there. Now I can just use this pry bar to pull up this board. These things come up pretty easy. I mean, you get an end loose just to pry it up, especially with a little rod on the end where the nails go through. But pry that up. So I've got the board cut. Now what I do is I've got the board taken out, that section. I want to make a cut right here, which is the center line of the joist below. So I just pry the board up and then trap it so it can't drop back down. I'm just trying to get the nails down here. A little technique too, put a piece of wood down here, use it to pry against, that way you don't screw up the edge of the board. I did that the first time I did these, so that was a painful lesson. So I've got that board out. It's about 3 feet long that I need to replace, and I've also got another piece of board I need to replace. I had some slivers that I glued down, but I think they're going to show. And this board is 20 feet long, and there's 2 slivery sections, and they're luckily about 12 feet apart. So I'm going to lift this board up, cut out the 12 feet section, and splice in a 8-foot section to come up my 20 total. And then on this end I end up with about 5 feet of wood that I can use to replace that 3 feet section I've already taken out. And since this wood is, $15 per board, any reuse I can do definitely saves some money. So the deck, let's see, we stripped the deck with a chemical stripper, and then we got a deck sander after that, and went over, did the chemical strip. After it dried out, took a deck sander to it, got it down to where the wood looks almost new. You can see some of the patches there, and the wood actually matches up pretty close to that. And you can see where I've just started staining today. And the nice little trick I figured out, they say not to use a roller in the right, it kind of globs up, so you put it on with a roller and then you go along with this pad and smooth it all out, and that's what it looks like then. Anyway, just started on this today. I've been working on this deck for, I don't know, 3 weeks. Had to do some patches and use some Bondo down here on that spot. We'll see how that matches up. I hope it'll take the stain and not show up very much once it's all done. But anyway, a lot of work, but I think it's going to look pretty darn good when it's done. What I do is I roll this on with a roller, and then afterwards I'll come back and go over with a pad brush. And the reason for that is when this goes on with the roller, it's kind of lumpy and bumpy, and so you just go over this pad, and you can see if I do this, it just smooths it all out and covers any kind of spots you might have missed too. Otherwise you end up with a funky texture and maybe some peeling problems. But this way you smooth it all out, gives you a nice finish right away, and then just start the next row or so. So here's a picture of the Bondo area after I got done staining it. When it was done, it was kind of yellowish color. I went over it with the semi-transparent stain, and you can see it doesn't quite match up. I've got to figure out something to do with that. Not really sure. I'll probably go over it with a solid stain, try and match it up, or I'm not sure what the solution is, but anyway, just wanted to show how that ended up.